Okay, sorry about that. Well, if you're going to watch it at this point, you've watched it in the past, so you wouldn't know that this was a couple minutes behind. And I'll explain it again in a second to some of these guys that built the Apex. Abel and other people all called me right at 5:58, and 5:58 is 2 minutes it takes to set up the live stream. So we're going to get this going. Yep. Post Sema live stream. Patreons only, not scheduled, publish now. Fuck yeah. Okay. I have to clean up that schmutz. I'm gonna turn on the lights brighter. This GoPro page dark light. So let's get the lights going. I got the car in the background. Let's go to YouTube to see if people are joining in other than just me, myself. It's a minute. This might be the quickest one. Do I have any? I have nobody. Oh, Ezra, no, you're the first one. Hey. Okay. It's always exciting to exactly from the beginning of the stream to get it going. Okay. Hey, sorry about that, guys. It was I got Cam, Rob, Ezra. I got 3 calls right as I needed the phone to set up for GoPro 8. You actually have to use the iPhone to set the live stream. You can't press it on the back of the screen anymore. And sure enough, I was getting calls, and they were very important calls. But of course, everybody just wanted to call me right at 6. So, Jim, hey, Garrido, Jimmy. Oh, there's 2 Jims technically. Okay, guys, this hopefully I look a little bit better. I can't believe it. I just cannot believe it. Yeah, Andrew. Yeah, Brad. Yeah, finally I'm not sleeping deep. That's the weird part. MT Shaw. Hey, Justin. Yeah, you guys are in for a good treat. It's weird. Even the day we got back, so not yesterday, the day before, my brother, Seth, and I, all 3 of us, we just crashed at the shop, and none of us could sit still. We had to work on the car. We had to work in the garage just because you can't just cut yourself off like that. It felt weird. So we spent all day cleaning up the shop, and the place looks pretty, it doesn't look like a surgery center that it did when we got done with Sema. But so I slept 8 hours last night, but it was very restless. Like I didn't, I'm like ready to go. I'm having anxiety. Not in a bad way. That's what's funny. It's just like post-event anxiety. Like, oh shit, I gotta get things ready, or I'm waiting on shipments. I don't sit. I'm not meant to be lazy, or you get used to being lazy and then you stay lazy. I'm in that like insane mode, and I want to stay in insane mode. Oh yeah, you made it to the live stream. Yeah, I tried being a little earlier today. Robert. Yeah, Justin, it was nuts. It was, I wait till you see the footage from tomorrow's video. I'm combining 4 days of footage into one video. So everything up to the moment that wheels spin is gonna be tomorrow's video. And you should see, I was actually just skipping through the video, and you can just see my face get so rough. And I'm kind of proud of that, because that's what I was willing to do to get the car to this point. Did Hoonigan do any videos with you? That's an excellent question. They didn't, but there's tons coming. So I talked to Hurt. We passed each other, at SEMA, and we're gonna do some shakedown stuff. We'll probably rent out the track that they use for the burn yard right now, but not do a burn yard. It's like a private thing where we test the car once I get it idling and ready for testing. Frederick, Sasha, was it 1? AF1. Sorry, my laptop's way over there. I would start the car. Could I? Yeah, absolutely. I shouldn't. And the reason why is I'm using my laptop to do the live streaming, and I didn't log. If you guys saw the startup at 7 stock, I didn't log it, and I don't want to do that again. That's just bad news. Why do that? So that's the only reason I wouldn't do that for you. Yeah, Adam, you're correct. I'll share the video. It'll be uploaded probably at 3 in the morning my time, and then I'll just set it to unlisted like I used to do, and we'll get back into that swing of things instead of it being so insane. So yeah, I appreciate you reminding me of that, because we're back forward. Yeah, so I don't know if today's video, and I don't care if today or tomorrow's video gets like the insane views, because they're just simply proof of what we did. And if anything, it's more for me and you guys, the core audience that wants to see just what actually happened. Because I think you guys know, I mean, I was still communicating, but the world didn't know what was going on. So kind of neat to see that. As a young gun judge, Brad, yeah, so that was one of the reasons that it made it possible to afford to be able to do the Sema push. Because if you can imagine, I added it all up, and we can actually go through the numbers together just kind of privately. But Sema's Young Guns thing helped pay to be able to afford Isaiah and Mark, because they're being paid. Like my brother, myself, and Seth, none of us were paid $0 to do any of this, and that was full-time work for 12 days in a row. Whereas Isaiah and Mark, were paid, and so you can imagine how quickly they made a lot of money. So that said, is that being Young Guns judge really helped offset the cost of everything that was involved with that blitz, and I'm very thankful. It was so awesome to be looked up to by those guys that were doing the Young Guns stuff. And while this build is like on a totally different level, the 3-rotor and even the rotary Corvette kind of fits into that, like doable by almost anybody, even with a reasonable budget. The 3-rotor actually, you could spend a couple years and get that built. And so it's neat to see them trying their own things. So yes, Young Guns stuff, I'm a hardcore supporter. They have weird requirements for number of posts. I don't know if you noticed that on some of my posts. They like, it's such an organic program, and yet the like requirement was like 2 Instagram posts and 8 Instagram stories every day. And I think that was a little excessive, but I didn't want it to look like it was selling out, but it really wasn't. It's it's such an underutilized program. It's funny. Yeah, I did say hi to OG Mister too. I was hoping he would go further in the program because I actually really liked his style. He didn't make it to the top 10. I was bummed out because I was sitting next to him at a lunch right before that got announced. He made it to the top something, but not to the top 10. And I voted up until like I think the top 3. They voted against each other, but I had some say in it, and a lot of other people had their own say, and that's the whole point of having multiple judges, different opinions. Yeah, Brandon, very excited to be here. Yeah, putting your kids to bed for the live stream. Yeah. Watching the live stream. Okay, that's awesome. Can I organize my shop lights? Brandon, other Brandon with an O-N as well. Not Brandon. Sorry. You're just going to have to deal with it. I'm sorry. There was actually some method to my madness. I'll show you the only ones that are organized are the ones there. And then it went to hell very quickly. There's like maybe 5 of them that are from the shop originally. And so I tried working around those. And my half ability to complete things. That's what you get. You get good lighting though. Let's do what matters most to me and all of you. Let's go over the car. Let's talk about what happened. And I don't mean that's for once in my life. That actually doesn't mean a negative thing, right? Normally that means, oh, here's what happened. This is what happened in a positive sense. Obviously, you guys have all seen this. You might be familiar with what the car is. Just messed with you. It turned out really, really, really well. All I'd have to do right now is to plug the battery back in, and the whole starter setup is all wired in. Everything's all fine. The biggest problem I had was a logical one, is that those fucking buttons. Sorry, I'm not gonna swear because you're putting your kids to bed. Sorry. Those buttons. They only light up, and I even needed Holly or Race Pack's help to get it to where you press the button and they turn things on. My Race Pack reset the day before Sema, so I had to manually wire it in to begin with. That's okay. Another issue we had is that small axle, that small carbon fiber axle, they made it like a 1/4 inch too long. So nobody pointed. It's neat because everybody was so obsessed with these things. And I'll explain why that was completely wrong to begin with. Nobody noticed, all the other millions of issues that were going on. To talk about these issues right here, The funny answer is that everybody's saying, oh, will they hit, will they hit? This one actually won't. This one will. And that's because Isaiah rushed welding it, and it must have shifted. But I believe, I'll even show you guys an exclusive. There, you might have heard it. Hopefully you heard it tink. They hit. The positive side to that, I don't know if the GoPro show you the angle, because GoPros love their wide angles. You can see the axles are angling way up. They were actually supposed to be more at a flat level, so the whole suspension is sinking at the moment, and that's because I got too soft of springs and too short of springs. Not a big deal, but except for Sema, it's all presentation. So the car is about an inch down out of its 3 inches in its already shock state. So it does need to come back up, and so the ride height is actually higher than this. But as you saw, as I went to go further, that does hit. So unfortunately, this was a last second sort of setup because Isaiah, I think, overestimated how quickly he could move, and I even padded that, and he still needed more time than I padded. But the idea was that we would get like an angle, an L bracket off of the Garrett turbo welded in, so you could get a really sharp angle, and then move it from 180 degrees and have it kind of come from there, something like that. And so that all that caused chaos down here. And really, I don't know how he did this. It was supposed to go in the apex or the pinnacle of the shock and strut tower. It was supposed to go further over there, and I swore they did when we tacked them in. But things shift, stuff moves. That's okay. So that's kind of funny to me. Funniest thing overall, and again, another thing that nobody pointed out, I would have thought for sure people would rip me apart, is that when I tightened that O2 sensor, I originally had the tip of the O2 sensor in there, didn't think anything of it, went to tighten it, and the tip made out of ceramic actually pushed into the pinion wheel, or ring, I guess you call it ring, the ring gear, and it actually separated part of the front seal and caused it to leak. So throughout all of Sema, that was actually leaking, the front diff. So I thought for sure somebody, you can see a little bit of puddle if the light's right. Now it's essentially empty. But long story short, that was the only thing leaking. The engine's full of oil. The whole system is fully primed. Transmission's full of oil. Center diff, rear diff, everything's actually fully oiled. So I was surprised that the engine didn't leak, because on the engine stand, this reverted back to the engine and dumped everything out through, kind of seeping through the engine. The engine still is not broken in, and so you get what you get with that. The belt, I don't know why my brother kept taking off. I actually need to ask him. I don't know why he kept taking the belt off throughout Sema. I think he was afraid of somebody taking it when there's plenty of shit to take. But they kept taking the belt off of the car. I don't know why. The steering rack was a pain in the ass. It's not going to show well on camera here, but you'll see that the steering wheel obviously comes from up there, and then there's a little U-joint there, and it comes to this angle. Well, that's cool and all, but the rack actually has this weird ass angle. There you go. You can kind of see it, the ribbed part. It actually only will come from a wider angle, so that means that whole rack would have to shift over more. Can't, because that's where the tie rod, blah, 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 blah. Long story short, that rack sucks. I would have to actually physically modify the rack, not add extensions. So what happens is when you turn the wheel, the rack isn't in line, and so it kind of does this like snaky thing, which is why at that point, I just simply tack that in there, because I'm like, well, I can't fix it, so let me just get it better. Because it was originally supposed to be right next to the alternator, but look at how close those have to be. So those are the issues that I thought for sure people would point out. Nobody pointed the vast majority out. Maybe one guy once was observant, but I think because the car was so overwhelming to people, thankfully, I think nobody could look at one thing and really get what was going on. Look at the comments. Full review of the jack on the ground. Yep, Brandon. Yeah. So Robert asked about the buttons. Yeah, that's the reason I couldn't log it. That's the reason I couldn't run it longer. Frederick, side dump instead of the rear. I'll show that. Actually, I'll go back to that in a second. It was time, but it was also actually painful. The car's not that easy to work with. Oh, okay, you have headphones in. Yeah, and Brandon, yeah, that's called pie cutting. Let me show you. Just gonna walk away, never come back. So there's a limitation to how tight you can bend aluminum or steel or titanium, and it's not the metal itself. It's the fact that you're given a tube and trying to pull it back and forth is a pain in the ass. So what you do is you take a piece of metal and you take a tube and you just simply, so the tube is, like this. You just cut it on an angle here and cut it on an angle here. And then all you're doing is taking sections of those, either like this, or you can turn it, and so you get some sort of craziness like that. You can just see that you can kind of do a roly-poly of any sorts, and then you tack them together and you weld them. So that's called pie cutting. Not my favorite thing, but it allows you to get tighter radiuses than are possible with a machine. Oh, Jake, yep, you're here. Sasha, I'm sorry to hear that, honestly. It's honestly something where the last 10, 12 days of my life have just been obsessive, absolutely obsessive. And I wouldn't, for this project, I wouldn't have gone any other way. I mean, even the downsides ended up producing some sort of amazing results. So I'm honored that you could see this project and see the results of my work. And yeah, the general public, they get to jump in at the last second, but you guys saw this. You saw it when it was at its hardest. And really, I looked at it, it was August, like mid-August, August 20th is when I got the motor and unveiled it. And so September 20th, October 20th, November 4th. So that's 2.5 months to get it from getting it into my hands, unveiling it, to getting it running and getting the whole car moving. So that, I can't thank you guys enough. But it's so cool. It is so cool. It's hard to believe we did it, Like, I remember for the last 3 years, ever since SEMA 2016, what it'll be like to bring a running car to SEMA, what it'll be like and we did it. And honestly, you saw me in that video, the most important video where, we get to call 4 tires running. After that moment, my emotions were just gone. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, as in, I was so overwhelmed. I couldn't believe what had occurred, that it was peaked. Like, I've not felt that before, particularly in a positive sense. Normally you feel it in a negative sense that you just can't believe, go through a breakup or a loss, and so on. But this was, I couldn't believe that everything, like everything positive had worked. And one of the biggest problems was because there were a handful of people just being so negative. And it was neat to not even directly respond to that, to just simply have such a positive thing happen, to bring the car running. That, let the results speak for themselves. And so that was like a movie. It was like a movie because I'll tell you guys behind the scenes. That red car, very questionable taste in design, but the guy has a good heart. Was supposed to be running. It didn't, and it wasn't close. But I mean, he was on my ass. He was on my heels to get his car running. And so he was gunning to say that he was the first all-wheel drive RX-7, and that caused a little bit of chaos in my life. And to be honest, I told him how difficult the project was. But if you guys watch today's video, at the very end, you see that input shaft on the transmission screwed everything up. That was a whole 36 hours behind on my project planning. That wasn't going to make it to SEMA. The car was not going to make it running to SEMA. So I was going to be this guy that just brought it twice to SEMA without running. And so I was just going to be his equivalent, which is why I was like, no, I have to bring it running. And so at that point, I got really quiet because I didn't know until the last second. Like the only reason that car went running to SEMA was because the tow truck company was 5 hours late. They're calling me apologizing, and I'm like, no, take your time. And even when it was ready to start, you don't see it in the video because it wasn't a film moment. My brother, Seth, and all those guys like, start it. I'm like, nope, I don't want to start it. We're not, I'm just, my brain was just so overwhelmed. And I was like, I don't want to do it. And I said, the only way we're going to start it is if all wheels spin, because people are going to be like, what the hell is going on if you only have 2 wheels spinning? It wouldn't tell the story properly. And so we figured out a way to pressurize the diff to get the front wheels to engage. Which, by the way, somebody said, hey, your front wheels are spinning faster than your rears. I'm like, no, they aren't. I looked at the video frame by frame. They are. And I checked the ratio. And sure enough, I had swapped the quick change diff gears. I put them in backwards. And so the rear is spinning slower because of that simple swap. So whoever mentioned that in the sea of comments, that, hilariously enough, was a mistake. Oh, okay. So, did it attract as much attention as I expected? Beyond. Like I tried to get like, for example, the Corvette, I was trying to get an idea of how much attention the Corvette would get going to 7 stock, the Corvette going to LS Fest, and I was hoping to be a 1 million view video, and it was slightly above that, so that was exciting. The Instagram, because that's the thing I could post too quickly, right? The Instagram response was insane. I had to get that video out, and that video went nuts. That video was over 500,000 views. I just wish I could have had more on real-time videos, because YouTube would have benefited from it, right? More subscribers and whatnot. And YouTube really didn't grow much on the Unveil. It kind of did exactly what it does on every other day. If anything, making videos, the days that videos are made, those are the days that the channel gets tons of subscribers. Oh, you can see my brain's still recovering. So that didn't do as well, but but Instagram, and really just the number of tags and all that sort of stuff, Instagram went insane. So that was the media platform that I could gauge the best, and it went far beyond what I was expecting. It gained like 10,000 Instagram followers in like 2 days, something like that. Let's see. Vibrant. Oh yeah, those Vibrant couplers are amazing, by the way. And you want to hear something really cool about that? The guy that's the director of Vibrant's social media, or media director, marketing director. I had met him years ago, and he was just, at that point, he was just their like web intern. And so he was like, dude, you were so good to me back then when I was a nobody. Let me help you out. So Vibrant just sent those clamps, which is nuts, because it's an excellent company. It's an excellent product. Only downside is they're Canadian. Just kidding. Did anybody bash me for not having the front body panels on? Maybe 1 or 2, but I wouldn't have cared if I got even more bashing for that, because I'll show you why. I've stared at this car for far too long, and when you can see the drivetrain from the side, you can, hopefully GoPro shows it. Let me see if you can see it from here. When you can see that missile in the center of the car, I was like, that's what I wanted the audience to see. I don't want them to see Sema carbon fiber body. And I think that actually shifted just like 3 years ago when I purposely brought a prototype car to Sema. I think I've shifted the paradigm at Sema twice now, and I'm kind of proud of that. That time was just saying, hey, I was just doing proof of concept, but the world was like, holy shit, he's admitting it's non-running car. But this time, to show them that I wasn't bringing a finished car, hiding all the problems. Like most people bring finished non-running cars. When I brought a running non-finished car, people were like, what? You can't do that. And I definitely did. And that was planned out. You guys knew about this a while ago. That I wasn't planning on putting body panels on it. Let's see. Let me just going through the comments. It was not hard to show any pictures until Sema. Yeah, Brad, you guys knew what was going on before, and it was nuts. Jim Burr, with it running, what's the next big step? It's in the other room, but I have a whole 2 rows of small things that I want to do before I get the car to break in more. That's just an obsession. That's a personal opinion. One of the fittings, this was actually not a showstopper, but it changed things, and it wasted way more time than it could. This is a 20 AN fitting, hose fitting, and inside there's this angled ridge, and that's when you put them together and you screw them together. That's what creates the seal. We somehow got one of these that are a 90-degree piece that has a almost flat version. There's no angle on it, and so I had spares of that 45-degree. I had spares of everything else, but the 90-degree piece, and so coolant would just start pouring out of that piece. So the engine has coolant, everything else has coolant except for the pump, and so that's why I was still willing to start it, but not let it run for too long, because I couldn't cycle the coolant. Will, I put the different taillights on the car. I was like, you know what, those are in perfect shape. They're brand new, and they're from Japan. The guy that kind of coordinated that is from New York, but they are from Japan. I don't even think the company's back in business now. I feel bad because they gave them to me as a gift for getting the car idea running to begin with, but back in 2016. So I'm really bummed out that I missed the opportunity to help them promote the car, but they're really wild. I don't have them wired up, but they do all this really beautiful, ornate things. I mean, I'm a sucker for stock 99 spec taillights, and those are circle ones, but those look pretty wild. I figured, this is the Sema build at that moment. Beef with David Mazzy. Yeah, I'll talk about that, Sasha, because that's interesting to me. He's a very negative person. He straight calling it. He's somebody who uses people to get where he's at. I'll say that to his face, because he asked me before SEMA 2016. He asked me tons of advice on my 3-rotor, tons of what I was doing with the 4-rotor, all that. And I think you guys can tell I love to share. I don't gain anything from holding it back. The only thing I won't tell people is if I'm doing something experimental, I don't want them to think it's the correct way. That's a liability issue. If I'm doing something I don't know if it'll work, I don't want to say, hey, this is what I'm using, and then they're like, oh, I saw him do one burnout once. He's good. I'm going to use those parts. That said, he, back then, I have all the screenshots because it really upset me then. He positioned himself against me then, saying that my car was heavily sponsored. It wasn't. I got the Garrett Turbo. That's all I had gotten for free. And so even with all that, he said so many nasty things. And then we realized that I was doing fine without him, and realized it was all-wheel drive. He tucked his tail between his legs, and then stopped doing the whole real news bullshit, and then was my friend again. And I sought that out. I was like, I want to be friends. And then as of middle of this year, as soon as I started getting the new engine in, him and his boyfriends, all these guys that are just they call themselves Hotel 7. They all just, same thing, went back to this, it's fake news, real news. Come on, guys. And magically, they said that my car wouldn't run or would never run, and that I was making up claims. Every single thing I've claimed that was going this far has gone this far, so I'm sorry, you guys are wrong. And come to find out, it's just what I've heard from one of those guys is that he's jealous. He's upset that my car is getting so much attention, and I understand that. So that part I understand, but how he's going about that's very disappointing, because he doesn't run a YouTube channel. Yeah, he's got one, but he's only made videos to be petty against my videos. That was a really disappointing thing too. Immature, but it's something where this is my job. I do this, and I mean that with the coolest, most humble, most exciting sense. This is what I am loving to do, and I'm very fortunate. I'm in a very rare spot that I get to do videos and make this car. This car would not be possible without YouTube, without you guys, without YouTube. I mean, you guys are all part of it. I call it that umbrella. It's the marketing side of it. He does not have that, and he, instead of him saying, hey, good job on doing that and using that to your advantage to bring the rotary community to a further spot, no, what does he do? He talks shit about it. How useless or it's stupid it is, or not real news, or some other lowbrow thing. Super disappointing. I don't lose any sleep over it, but he posted several times that he was only running 4-rotor at SEMA, I had people push the car in because I wanted to let him hang himself with his own words, and so all I did was had social media people push the car in with me, and then had the video locked and loaded, ready to go, and let the video speak for itself. So, and as I suspected, him and his friends are all like, "Oh yeah, now it runs, but it doesn't. It moves, but you blah blah blah." They just keep shifting their criticism. That's something. If any of you guys are, into YouTube or anything like that, that sort of criticism does not bother me whatsoever. It's when they're your friends that it bothers me. So they were my friends. They're just critics. They're just shit talkers. And then when you realize they're just shit talkers, it doesn't bother you again. But to lose friends because they won't support you in your success, that's not a YouTube thing. That's more of just a personal thing. That's disappointing. I know a lot of people. He's easily replaced in my friendship circle. But yeah, that's the full story. So hopefully that helps answer why it's disappointing that he's built such a cool car and he's not holding himself up to the same standards. Okay, let's see. It took me less time than running to get the Missouri State Troopers to give me a court date for a speeding ticket. Yeah, that's proof, guys. That is proof. You guys have been aware of, like, between beef with David and Abel, that I've had some, not setbacks, but if anything, it was breaking forward. All of these challenges I've had were holding me back. And so this was showing the world. I think you guys know it because you've supported me through this. I don't fuck around. I have a vision and I want it to be accomplished. So I think the world finally got to see, okay, Rob actually, when it's in his control, it happens much quicker. And so that was probably the most emotional moment for me, was that, okay, Abel was not involved. Nobody else was involved from a mentor standpoint. This was my baby, and it would fail, it would be my baby. And to bring it running to Sema, I still am processing that. That's still beyond my emotions, because what better than, okay, A, we're going to bring a four-rotor Sema and Abel's building it and all that, versus B, I have to build it myself, with my team, and it's my leadership, and I can fuck it up 10 different ways. That's terrifying in some ways, and it was super exciting in most of them. So that's probably one of the greatest experiences ever, was that what you are aware of behind the scenes is what made this 10 times more emotional for me. What did Holly guys? Brad, I should have posted it as an actual post. Maybe I'll do that. I posted it as a story, but Bill, the guy that arrested me at Seventh or LS Fest, we got a picture in the Holly booth, and I'm behind bars at there. So they spoke very highly of me, and I speak very highly of them. They were really, really, what they did made this whole 2.5 months of fast-paced growth possible, because they donated almost $10,000 in products to this car. That allowed me to make these cool videos talking about what those products were, which then let me use the money from that month's Patreon and YouTube revenue to buy the next set and keep reinvesting. So that they set me ahead, not just by giving me free product, but that let me make more videos, which had the ball rolling much faster. So I owe a lot to Holly in that sense, just emotionally. Those guys, they make it very clear that, I told him all the business plans and everything. He was like, "No, I don't care about your business plans." He goes, "I want to know if you're enabling young people to be excited with their dreams." He was super obsessed with that, which is kind of funny, because he was actually telling me something I believe in. But when it comes to business, you're like, "Hey, here, I'll give you this much value." He's like, "I don't care." He goes, "I just want you to give the people that buy our products that emotion." And I'm like, Psh, that's easily done, because that's exactly barely holding it together myself. Ob time. Hey, how long do you think till you'll drive it? That's actually going to come up pretty quickly. I want to give myself a week I got to order stuff, so I got 2-3 days to replace hoses, and then I would say a week of total from now to breaking it in, as soon as I can get caught up to the YouTube videos. Excuse me, the YouTube videos. Yes, those are the CRVN. It's so funny. I saw him taking pictures, and I didn't think anything of it. I was like, hey, cool. You know, we unloaded the car there. Now we got to figure out how to move it. And they end up being like the most iconic pictures of the car. It's neat to go look backwards and go, that those pictures have more than double the engagement than any picture I've ever had on Instagram a year ago. That's not viral. That's just simply you guys. And so that very, very exciting. Even photo stealing pages were posting them. Yeah, I love that you guys like tag me in those, because then I still stand for not letting that shit go. It did look dope without the panels. That's what I was very proud of. And I think other than a handful of people that were trying to be all pissy, everybody else loved it. Six-rotor Mazda Cosmos funded by Bill 4-rotor trademark. Skirt Boy. Actually, I'm definitely going, depending on how well the startup videos do, the public ones, and all the ads that you can do with that, I think I might get aggressive and start getting the core of a 6-rotor. Right now, I just actually, one of the 3 calls that I had at 6 was Abel calling me, kind of tail tucked between his legs a little bit, like, hey, here's some of your parts. I should have some of them. He doesn't even have all my parts. Build this 4-rotor, make the C8 Aerovet. You know, that's doable because I already have 95% of the block. And I have to get those things going now because, you know, say we hit a lull say I'm waiting on body work or a guy that come in for a week and the 4-rotor is just waiting a week, I can work on my other projects. So it's weird because you have to be strategic like that. But the big plan is, if the videos upcoming do really well, you get a 6-rotor core. Probably, I mean, I'll be very honest with you guys, this obviously stays in our little group, is that it would be a 6-rotor Lamborghini that's V12 or was V12. A couple reasons why. There's a red Diablo that is currently LS. So what better than to pull an LS motor out of the wrong car, set that aside, throw it in the trash, whatever, and then still be sacrilegious and put a 6-rotor. 6-rotor is identical length as a V12, my Lamborghini V12, and a 6-rotor the same core block length. I think that'd be epic. It would not be faster. What you guys need to know is that would not be faster than the 4-rotor. A 6-rotor is actually more unstable. It'll sound more stable, but like there's a reason nobody else has turbocharged it, because A, you don't need to, but B, it just isn't meant for boost. So I would be the first to, you know, put like maybe 3-5 pounds of boost in that, and you'd be over 1,000 without trying. What better? I mean, like, to the general public, not you guys. You guys know this is my obsession. This is my vision. This was the most difficult car ever, and it was worth every bit of it. And it'll be the fastest. It'll be it's a Mazda. It's not a YouTube. It owes its life to YouTube, but it's not a YouTube car. It's been an obsession. Whereas a 6-rotor Lamborghini would be more of a YouTube car. It'd be fun as hell to do. It won't take nearly the sort of effort this does. But so anyway, just to answer that question. Let's see. Yep, blah, 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 YouTube. Did you let your welder go? He's on extended chain. He's on extended chain, and I'm paying him really well per hour. And so right now I'm just getting some breathing room because it's cost me tens of thousands of dollars between all the fabrication. And so, you know, there's the real gravity of the situation is that burst took over $65,000 to do all that at once. I would do it again in a heartbeat. Don't even act like that's not, like, I've got the opportunity to do it, right? I've got all these, you know, I was doing some ads, you know, my hair care ad, that sort of stuff, right? Every bit of that went towards getting the car to this phase. Would do it again in a heartbeat. And so, you know, most importantly to me, more than the parts, is labor. I love taking care of the people that are in my circle, but then I have to replenish my coffers. Thankfully, this isn't downtime though, because I've got more opportunities. So I just can't work at a rate of like 5 people all at once. That's just not possible at the moment. And then Jim, I kind of talked about Abel that he called. Sorry guys, I'm just a little bit behind. I'm telling you these long stories. I'm sorry. Did I laser scan the new engine, and do you plan to? Yeah, Sasha, that's actually a really good point. I'm kind of putting myself ahead of myself. Is that that engine is very experimental. I do need to tear it down at some point and scan it and measure it and get the exact dimensions, because if it works and continues working, so I can rebuild it. After tomorrow's video, will you caught up, or is there still a few more videos? That's a really good question. Tomorrow's video gets you caught up to what it took to get to Sema. I think I have 1 or 2 videos of Sema and 7 stock. You know, like, hey, here's what happened at Sema and here's what happened at 7 stock. More so, you know, those are like true YouTube videos. Like, here's what it was like there. I wish I could have done those. You know, that would have been great to have Jarrett for those, but not a big deal. Yeah, Brad, the way Holly reacted to the rotary Corvette, like I said, that this whole year, 2019, was a year I couldn't have planned for shit. Absolutely none of this was planned. Other than at the very beginning of the year when the 3-rotor blew, I was like, well, maybe I'll push forward a rotary Corvette idea that I've had for a while. But who would have thought that the rotary Corvette, you see a lot of the similarities between the Corvette and the 4-rotor in my build process, and then B, Holly being so supportive of both. You can't plan either of those. Twin 4-rotors into a speedboat. I wish I liked boats. I'm not a boat person. Yeah, there are already rotary drag boats. Payment, 10 minutes of freedom and sometimes food. Yeah, it was cool. You know, I tried watching Isaiah's Instagram. You know, it was a very different world for him. He's not used to the fame side of things, and it really is. You can't really call it anything else. You know, he was recognized quite a bit because of him being on YouTube, and so it was neat for me to see him experience that. Just gonna make sure it doesn't go to his head. I don't think it will, but there's a problem when you have really younger people experience that sort of attention. They get used to it way quicker than if you've not been part of it for a while. They get way quicker and then they demand it. He wasn't doing that, but I'm just saying that's something that you got to be careful of. Introducing people to something, like, basically, if somebody just tells you right now, hey, you've got, you know, $10 million inheritance, and you're like, wow, you don't form the same type of values that you would if you had earned that $10 million. And I'm not saying one's better than the other, but I feel like there's a level of respect when you earn it and understand the difficulties. There's a different level of communication at that point. What kind of RPMs am I expecting with the 4-rotor? I'm going to cap it at 9,500, maybe 9,000, so over 9,000, and leave it there. And that's because it's turbocharged. The only reason that you go to 10,000 or anything like that is just like what David's doing, is you're revving it. He's not boosting it to 10,000 RPM. He's revving it to 10,000 RPM, so the load's not pushed as hard. When you go up every 1,000 RPM past, I'd say 9,500, the wear becomes exponential. That's just been shown over time. So I honestly, if he wasn't such an odd person, I appreciate that he's doing that for the theatrics, because I love it. It sounds amazing, and he's wearing the shit out of his engine doing it too. Not that it's gonna blow up while he's revving it, but just you're accelerating the use of the engine for sure. Yeah, as you point, yeah, it's funny. It's funny because that rotary Corvette was such a good idea because, you know, like you said, I wasn't the only person who came up with it, and that feels good. So a couple other things that we have to do. One is that this is the 5-gallon fuel cell that's supposed to go back on that. Correct fuel cell goes where the battery is, back there, and then we're gonna have this really nice exhaust setup back here, which is going back to one of the very first questions of this. This was the best that Isaiah could do given the circumstances, and I know that we can probably do way better. So there's going to be 2 wastegates. That's only one of 2. And, excuse me, you see right down here, that thing that he capped off, which kind of started the whole, you know, dusting off the car again. Inside of there is this huge empty hollow thing. It is structural for the stock FD. It is not as structural now because, you know, the core chassis is already, you know, tubed now. So I do want to cut into it, try and retain it, but similar to like a AC Cobra or even a Viper, have the more tame exhaust go through there, come out avoid the axles, and then this is gone now. Have it similar to the Diablo with 2 resonators back and forth, and then it goes out, similar to the Koenigsegg as we talked about a while ago. Also, the guy that did the body work, the Bondo work originally, met up with me at Sema, and so getting the thing to fit properly, I think you can see it from this angle very well. So getting it to fit exactly how it's supposed to is my goal. Putting the fenders back on, putting the bumper on, which does not fit because the bumper is not square at all. So doing all that body work so we can pull the correct molds. That's going to be going on while I'm thrashing the car. Those two things are going to be going on at the same time. So because body work, the guy, first of all, the reason that didn't get done a year ago was because the guy just was busy. He's just a busy guy. So, I don't expect him to get it done quickly. So that's again, I'm trying to be smart about this, like YouTube smart, and multiple things going at once. Am I going to route the fuel fill neck to the stock filler neck? Yes, I like that idea too. It'd be cool to see this without the body on. Yeah, so Robert, the dream goal I've had, and I've made this clear even to the public now, is that video of Ken Block thrashing on the Unicorn doing shakedown. It almost looks similar to this, and that's for good reason why. So, film your own action movie at the 4-road and bring guns back to the channel. Brandon definitely hit the nail on the head with the guns part of it. People are definitely very sensitive, and I don't even mean in a bad way. It's just that people are worried about other people being sensitive. So it's just generally not a good idea. You can't monetize any content with guns. You can even release it, but even then, YouTube, the algorithm works against you. I'm sure that hopefully that climate will relax for the people like us that I think are respectful and just appreciate a good action movie. But yeah, with Jarrett gone, I'm in a little bit of a disadvantage with the cinematics, even though I still have all of my cinematics planned. But there's a couple people that have reached out, so I'll definitely be filming some sort of cinematics with the car, especially as it's running. Sanctioning bodies having fuel tank right behind the seats, firewall. Yeah, Frederick, I am not an expert on that stuff, and so that's been other people giving me recommendations. The company that reached out to me is the company that makes all the fuel cells for NASCAR, and they have this special bladder sort of cool setup. So it might not even be an actual tank. That's what's crazy about it. And yes, the downside to making it capable of being safe, like truly safe, not just, it's got a roll cage, but truly safe, you're gonna cover up so much of the car. You're not gonna be able to see parts from the other parts of the car, and that bums me out. So I've been dragging my feet on that part. There's a company, I have to send them an email to follow up, but they wanted to sponsor the channel on getting me a CNC plasma cutter, so we can start making steel panels for things. And if we can do that, then hopefully I can make them removable. I don't know what the requirements are. I don't know, and so I feel like I'm gonna have my heart broken a little bit when we go to put the car together as a car, in ways that I didn't want things to go. So part of the reason why I'm avoiding those. When's the hood getting finished? Yeah, so that's the hood still fits the same one that I made for the video. That's perfect. And so we got some more tube work to be able to where the sides of the hood, there needs to be 2 tubes going there for the fenders to sit on those with tabs on that, and then down where the headlights. So I have to finish the headlight brackets and the fender bracket hood tubes, and then we can put everything back together. So that's a little bit of tube work you'll probably see first. That's actually top on my list. Brian, honestly, that means the world to me. Thank you so much. Because I know you guys have definitely been encouraging, and even it's neat that even some of you are concerned. There's just no way. There's no way I should have been able to bring this car running to SEMA, so I even surprised myself, and it couldn't have been done without everybody else. And you'll see in this next video. You can actually see the energy fading from my eyes, and this outcome being like the least possible. So to even make it that far, it's just, I don't know. It's Like I said, it almost feels like I'm sad. It almost feels like I'm sad because I can't even process how amazing it was. I was there with my brother. Oh, little fly. I was there with my brother. He got to see the car start. He got to be part of the unveil. And if you guys have really close brothers, you know what that means. That's a very extremely important moment. So, Sasha, yeah. So again, I'm behind on things that actually could be very helpful for the channel. You guys will be getting the shirt that's the iconic red shirt, but it'll say launch edition on here, and I'll probably list those for sale for the general public. So don't buy that. I'll tell you guys beforehand, don't buy that again. But that was supposed to launch the moment the car launched, so that way you capture the excitement from there. But from maybe with the car doing its first video of it rolling and moving, you capture the excitement there as well. Like a launch edition. Is the front wider than the back? It's not, but because of that one axle being a 1/4 inch, I mean, if you want to be really technical, that side's a 1/4 inch. We extended the width of the front a 1/4 inch each. The problem is that every single camera is not isomorphic, so it can only do it from perspective, right? So from your perspective, the front tires are always going to be closer to the camera lens. They're always going to make it look like they're wider. They are not. It's square. Carbon fiber body panels, but not making custom carbon hood. Yeah, Brian, that's going to be a custom carbon hood, but I still have to put that hood back on to make the carbon fiber mold. Hopefully that explains that. Retaining the pop-up headlights. Yes, that is very much, so many people have tried to get me to get away from that. That is, I want stock pop-up headlights. They're not strong, so I'm going to have to create some sort of mold for that spot when we go for high speeds, because you guys have seen them. They rip off at 100 miles an hour to begin with. So I'm gonna have to do something to protect those when I go for top speed. Julian, thank you very much. That's it's kind of one of those things where I want to point out that you call me a powerhouse. I'm still only one person, and what really happened is that I just didn't let the world down, but the world gave me all these tools. So everything's sitting on the outside edge is all like emotional, but I had all these things, money, support, resources, people willing to help out, all sitting on the edge. And the only thing I did was took all those and used them as best as to my ability. The car is 99% my vision, a handful of other people's visions as they've taught me what to do. But so the important thing is that I didn't let you guys down, but it was just simply a test of whether or not I could use everything, the opportunities I have. So I don't want people to think that there's an ego involved in anything like that. It's just simply any one of us could have done that if they had the same resources. I had to make some tough calls. You'll see that in this upcoming video. Things that just were like, okay, we just can't do that for Sema. So I feel like that was a skill that you have to be in this spot. But I did everything possible. I was willing to go to jail. I was willing to do whatever, honestly, to get this car running to Sema. And thankfully, the world tested me, and I almost didn't, but I passed. My soul's leaving and absorbed into the forerunner. That couldn't be more accurate. Isaiah's going to stay around definitely for a little while, but I don't know how sustainable. Like, think about this: if you're paying somebody $35 an hour, and they're doing work on a small bracket, it's not worth it. Like if he spends 10 hours perfecting one really small cosmetic thing, I just paid $350 plus all the other things to get that small piece made. So it was beyond worth it to this point. But now it's like, okay, you have to worry about diminishing returns. And so we still have a month easily of work, but we have to figure something out because I take care of him, and I'm not gonna leave him high and dry at all. One piece launch edition pajamas with the flap. Brandon, front or back? I already know the answer. It's both. Yeah, Brian, a Red Bull sponsorship would definitely be the ideal setup. Now, a handful of things that have been paused. Like I have that brand deal I have to do with Goodyear. I straight up called the company and said, hey, I cannot deliver until after Sema. I apologize. I took that on, and then the CTSV had a actual snapped rim, which is kind of cool for the video, but ruined my timeline. And they're the company that manages Frito-Lay. So I want to keep them happy because Doritos would be the next best thing. Red Bull, Doritos, any of those things. I think they'll come in after the fact. I think that everything that this build has done is everybody's betted against me, or I love being the underdog where it's like I might look like I've got all these things, but I've earned them, and I start getting them after I need them. So, a sponsorship like that will come after we've broken a record, I suspect. Uptime, I'll DM you guys. What do you call it? Patreon does a really good job of letting you filter users and whatnot. And so the ones that have been there far and beyond their required times and dates, those are the ones that I should clarify. I'm glad you asked that to clarify that's the case. And Simon, Ahura merchandise, that I can finally catch up on. We'll redo the sweaters. Mine's absolutely destroyed from working on the car. And if anything, that's almost the most ideal design, is that it's all destroyed from the car. With it going into winter, and the idea is to do something for Black Friday. So if somebody has something, when people are looking for stuff. So the guy that helped me do those, and I think you can all agree, if any of you have the newer shirts, they're higher quality than my old shirts, and those are high quality. So same guy, he's had some challenges in his business too, but he's always delivered a very amazing product. Maybe you do the first launch on the car. You get the shirts out. Yeah. Jake, that's not a bad idea. Removable wheel covers for high-speed runs. Yeah, that's something else, that the type of wheels that you do for those insanely high-speed runs, those are more flat surface. Yep, Jim, and then you end up saying it. That's it. So Vossen back then, Vossen's gone through some restructuring, but they even offered to make special high-speed edition wheels. So that'd be cool to see if they follow through on that. You aren't really getting along anymore. Is that going to impede in the 2,000 brake horsepower goal? Frederick, that's a really good point. If anything, that's allowing it more. And I'm actually not trying to disrespect Abel on that. Abel rushes. Partially because he knows what he's doing. Partially because he doesn't. And I mean that in a very positive sense, is that style doesn't work for this sort of build. He's got his 3-rotor down to an art. He doesn't need to check compression. He doesn't need to do any of that because he knows that his engine build. I'm not that same type. And so you guys saw briefly, what was it, HP Academy? Those guys filmed a whole interview with me about the car, and they've been interested in bringing out a team from New Zealand to document putting this engine to its limits. And I mean, that's all you need to say, is that these guys actually have experience dynoing a 4-rotor. Abel's dynoed and helped with David's, but there was so much left on the table. David's engine can't handle, just like my other engine, let's be clear there, isn't meant for really safely over 1,000 horsepower. You can do it, but again, you're gonna pay for it. So Abel doesn't have experience with pushing a 4-rotor and knowing what happens and what to check for. The New Zealanders do. And so if anything, this very methodical process, filming it, documenting it, every single sensor on, Elliot from Turbo set that up. And so if anything, it is more possible to hit the 2,000 brake horsepower limit than it was before. So I'll probably break the engine in first. One fly in all of California finds me. I'll probably break the engine in first. I know that for a fact. I'm gonna break the engine in first before attempting that, because that means the engine has to come out. So again, that'll probably be while we're making some heavy progress on the body, because there's some serious setup to the engine dyno for that. Corvette or F1, top corner F1. Yeah, Brandon, come on. Unless it was a rotary Corvette, then you're allowed to have other options. Dry ice tanks to help with cooling. So I don't know if you guys saw in any of the videos or footage, nothing I've released. Carlos Lopez from Florida spent almost 2 hours with me at 7 stock. That was, if any reason for going to 7 stock, that was it. He's CLR, Carlos Lopez racing. That dude's as much of a legend, if not more, than Abel. And I don't mean to compare them, but that dude knows his shit. And he was giving me tons of advice. Him and what's his name from oh my god, my brain's blanking. the guy with the green and black NA four rotor. Shit, this feels bad because I know his name. Just I don't say it often. Defined Auto Works. He, excuse me. He also was very helpful. Those guys, had tons of actual four rotor advice to give me for making the amount of horsepower or pushing the engine to the limits that I could. No, not John Vargas. Taller white guy with kind of a goatee thing going on. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know why New Zealand is such a rotary powerhouse. I've never understood that New Zealand, Australia, and Puerto Rico. Maybe because they are all. Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe because they're all the closest to Japan. Logan, Jesus, that took me a second. Logan from Defined Auto Works. He's not really a big YouTube or social media player, but the dude knows. By the very least, he knows because he's done a lot. He's got a lot of experience with his NA four rotor. So, long-winded way of saying there's a lot of cooling changes I might do, subtle, to improve the cooling. Things that I had ideas about, and then finally got confirmation from. For example, when the oil comes from the oil pan, it's gonna be at its hottest. And everybody takes that super hot oil, I have it going through my strainer, my filter, and then goes into the tank. Why the hell do I want to just set the hottest oil possible just right into the tank? Why not cool it off? So I think one of my coolers is going to go in line with that. So the oil is actually cooler by the time it gets to the tank. And then Carlos had a really good point where, okay, you have this pumping hot oil to this first oil cooler, cooling it, and then it goes into the second oil and cools even more, creating a very viscous oil. Well, that just impedes everything. Not in a bad way. It works fine, to be honest. But why put more pressure on your own system itself? So that's kind of old school, but simple, good ideas. Let's see. Puerto Ricans are crazy. Yeah. Yeah, Brad knows. Brad's going to know more than you can answer the... wow, I'm really dead right now. Brad can answer more about the New Zealanders. Puerto Ricans are crazy. The fact that they just hit 6.08 or whatever it was with the 3-rotor and 6.18 with the 2-rotor in a quarter mile, pretty damn impressive. I don't know how much I can absorb from that world. I mean, in general, yes, but there are things that you do just to sell your soul to do drag racing. And a 4-rotor kind of behaves differently than all those. So the cool part is absorbing all of this information that all of these other people have, and then sharing it with all of you guys and sharing it with everybody else to show you how to make this damn engine reliable. That's my dream goal at this phase. Oh man. No, it's an hour and 2 minutes in. Clearly I could talk about all this forever. I've got to go back and edit. I think I might grab food. I haven't eaten yet today. But our racing, Puerto Rico is racing based. Dual cooling system. Yeah. So Jim, that's I kind of glossed over that part. Is that the idea is that I'll probably have another radiator for the second half of the block, or use one of the oil coolers for the second half of the block. That's going to require a little bit more machine work, but I kind of want to run the car and then share with you guys is that really needed? It is, but is it really needed? Here's where the numbers happen. Here, let's look at the logs. That's really important to me. Where do I plan to attempt the high-speed runs? The initial ones will be shaken down out here in California. The half-mile stuff's definitely in California, so I can get the car there without too much expense. And then Salt Flats is where the real high-speed runs will occur. 96 for Rob Dom on my checks. Oh yeah, Brandon, can you put custom images? You should do like as if I'm like a statesman, like I'm supposed to be on a currency. I'd be willing to pay that. Brake depths with the body settle roof scoop. Sasha, that's crossed my mind. Removable or otherwise roof scoop, because I do not want a plexiglass glass hatch. I don't want to cut into it. I don't want to cut into the body lines at all. But a roof scoop could be cool for allowing rear cooling, because there's nothing else. There's no other way I'm doing rear cooling, and I need to consider it. I need to be smart enough to consider that. And so I think what will happen is the initial body will be completely fastenerless, holeless. It'll be a completely smooth, like exotic body. And then when we go for like time attack, have a body that's got whatever hole, whatever thing is necessary to make that car as light as possible and get weight reduction. Not having less carbon fiber, but by using advantages with wind flow or airflow. Taking the car on some windy roads, that's exactly it. Is that after the top speed stuff comes the high aero, high downforce, windy road, just learning everything that's involved with taking a car and letting it have traction there. Replace the sunroof with it. Oh my God, that has not yet crossed my mind, Sasha. That if you see anything related to the sunroof, I'll give you credit on the video, but that you just, because everybody's asking me to cover the sunroof, and I always wanted the sunroof. So that's a perfect entry point without breaking any body lines. Really damn good idea. NACA ducts on the flat floor of the brake ducts. Yeah. That's also not a bad idea, Frederick, because I think of those always going on the side of the car, but because the whole bottom is flat, I'm pretty sure you meant NACA, but vacay ducts would be kind of sick too. But yeah, okay. Hill climb. Yeah, so as I've mentioned to you guys in the past, nothing's changed to having Reese Millen potentially drive the car up Pikes Peak. But that's like 2 years from now. That's realistically a long time from now, because that requires every system to be fully shaken out. You have this guy trusting that you've built a car to keep his life safe on a mountain climb. That's going to take some time. Yeah. Oh, no, dude, Frederick, thank you. Because, again, you and Sasha just busted two ideas I have not even considered, and they solved some serious problems. So I honestly, you'll see probably both of those. So you guys just right now just solved some issues, just mentioning those. So thank you. Okay, let's wrap it up. My voice is about to go because it's finally almost recovered from Sema, but you guys will be getting tons of content. I'll probably just upload all the content I have, and then you guys can just even have fun going through that, all the pictures, stuff. Because Instagram, you can only post so many before it gets annoying. I'll just share everything I have because it's just such a cool moment, such a milestone for the project. Like I said, I might be getting that plasma cutter, and I've got some extra bonus rewards for Patreon because I'm getting free stuff. I might as well share it with you guys. Is there any interest? And I hope the answer is yes. Even if there isn't, just lie to me and say yes. I have a lot of the paperwork of the projects, the timeline, the tasks as part of building this car. I might just kind of give away to some if you guys are interested in it, like stuff that just was like what it took to get here. I kind of wanted to keep it all, but I kind of want to I think it'd be more important, or like if anybody wanted some of the original design ideas and stuff like that, to share that with you guys. So that might be okay. I see the chat's moving like crazy. Okay, yep. Okay, well that's good. That's good because that means a lot to me. And it's just pieces of paper, but I'll tell you guys this. This is my last thing, and then we're going. Crispy from Crispy Media. He's Chris Petruccio, a good friend of mine. He's going to do a full video. I have 2 terabytes of content of like the inspiration for the car, all the build process. He can make a full like documentary on the car once we break a record, and so that'll be super exciting. I want to have kind of some of those pieces of the history. Like it's meaningful, right? Henry Ford type things. I mean, that's a totally bigger level, but it'd be neat to just share some of that with you guys. So, okay, I'm out. I'll try and upload that video for you guys tonight to have it before it launches tomorrow. This is exciting. This is very insanely exciting. I can't believe we're here. Thank you so much. And we'll probably be doing more live streams more frequently because this is really the easiest way to share what's going on and solving some problems. So, okay, guys, take care. We will talk tomorrow, today, later.